Deliberation 2204, Tethani Accord Chamber. The timestamp reads 4 minutes and 11 seconds, official, logged, unmodified. The scout's voice cracked across the bridge. One damaged ship, Commander, drifting. It hasn't moved in 6 hours. Doran didn't smile, though every officer around him did. 900 cycles of war had taught the Vorath Dominion exactly one lesson: nobody outran the wedge. Above his head, cut into the wall of the flagship in cold blue fire, the record burned: 900 victories, 0 losses. He had bled for 41 of those numbers himself. He believed in them the way he believed in gravity. Humans, the scout said. Small territory, no history against a fleet our size. Bring us to intercept, Doran said. 3 cruisers forward, order them to surrender. 30 warships slid through the colored fog of the nebula toward a hull barely a tenth their size. The human ship did not answer, did not run. When the 5th hail went unanswered, its dead engine flared back to life, and it turned its blunt nose to face them. An intelligence officer read a line off an old trade record, her voice thin. It says, "When you meet them, do not corner them. Let them leave if they want to leave." Doran read it twice. Then he gave the order to advance anyway. The first shot did not come from the Vorath. It came from the human ship, and it went straight through the seam in a cruiser's flank, the exact half-second window where the wedge formation always rotated its weakest plating toward the center. No enemy had ever been fast enough to catch that window. The cruiser split open, spilling fire and air into the mist. How? Doran said. It wasn't a question. He needed someone to make it make sense. They waited for the rotation, his tactical officer said. 2 seconds. They were counting on it before we ever arrived. Across the nebula, on the wrecked bridge of the Resolute, Captain Ray watched the cruiser tumble out of formation and allowed herself nothing more than a nod. One down, her gunner said. They don't know what to do. They've never had to know, she said. Hold us steady. Let them still think this is a hunt. It wasn't a hunt. It hadn't been for 3 days, since a battle no Vorath had witnessed left the Resolute's drive core dark and her hull scored. Ray had a choice then: run for home or turn her dying ship into bait. She chose the bait. Doran ordered his fleet to surround the human vessel, to close every gap. It was the wrong move, and he made it anyway, because it was the only move his instincts knew. The Resolute dove into the heart of the wedge, the one place no captain should go, 30 guns converging on one hull, except inside the formation. The Vorath couldn't fire without hitting each other. The cage built to crush an enemy from outside became a trap around its own throat. A second cruiser lost its engines. A third went blind. Ray finally opened the channel. Her voice, translated into flawless Vorath, filled Doran's bridge. This is Captain Ray of the human warship Resolute. You hailed me 5 times. Now I'll answer once. Turn your fleet around. We didn't come here for a war, but if you stay, you won't all leave. Doran closed the channel himself. The shame of it burned worse than the wreck of 2 cruisers. Recall every ship, he said. We end this now. What he watched next unmade him slower than any weapon could have. His fleet moved in perfect lines, each captain waiting on his word before acting, a machine with 1 brain and 100 hands, and the brain too slow for the hands. The Resolute's crew moved like a single animal, her gunner firing before she finished a sentence, her navigator turning the ship before being told why, her engineer rerouting a dying shield without waiting for permission. A Vorath cruiser locked its guns and paused half a second for confirmation. In that half second, the human ship was already gone, and 2 rounds went into the cruiser's drive. They're not faster than us, the tactical officer said, watching it happen again. They decide faster. By the time we choose, they've already moved. The Resolute kept bleeding. A shield generator burned out. A bank of guns went dark. Frame won't take another 10 minutes, Captain, the engineer said. Then we don't need 11, Ray said, and didn't look away. A glancing shot finally rocked the human ship, and a cheer went up on Doran's bridge, the first solid hit, proof the thing could be hurt. Press it, Doran said. They're breaking. They weren't. His intelligence officer had stopped watching the fight entirely. Buried in the conquest archive of a species crushed 300 cycles earlier, she'd found a study on humanity. Their home world a slow-motion catastrophe of ice and plague and predators. Every generation handed down one inheritance. Endure. One line she read 3 times, her mouth going dry around it. Humans do not fight to win. They fight to not lose. A species that fights to win stops when winning is impossible. A species that fights to not lose keeps going long after victory is gone. Because to them, stopping is the only true defeat. Commander, she said, they don't have a breaking point. Their world never gave them one. We have to let them go now before this gets worse. It cannot get worse, Doran said. They are one ship. The numbers are still ours. He didn't believe it even as he said it. And in the deep dark of the nebula, a sensor no one was watching caught a flicker. Then another. Then a dozen. Signal the others, Ray said quietly. Tell them it's time. Ships rose out of the mist on every side. Cold engines, dark signals. A human squadron that had been sitting in the blind heart of the nebula since before the first shot was fired. They didn't charge. They slotted into the gaps between Vorath hulls, sealing every lane of retreat, vanishing again into fog too thick for Vorath sensors to read. We did not catch them, the intelligence officer said, and her voice had gone hollow. They caught us. The Vorath fleet had never fought blind, at close range, unable to trust which shadow was friend. Twice, cruisers fired on each other in the confusion. The humans never made that mistake. One after another, ships that had gone 40 cycles without a scratch came apart in the dark, until the human squadron peeled the last escorts away and left the flagship alone in a clearing of empty mist, and the Resolute came around it like a wolf finding the one that gave the orders. This is Ray, the channel opened, her voice rougher now but no less certain. Your fleet's broken, your escorts are gone, I have you and you know it. I gave you one chance to leave, you didn't take it. Here's the second and it's the last. Power down your weapons, turn around, keep fighting and you don't go home at all. Doran looked at his young officers, raised on the same glowing record he had been, waiting for him to do the proud thing and die undefeated. He had spent 40 cycles believing that was courage. Standing on a dead bridge with the war record dim in the alarm light, he finally saw what it actually was, the easy thing. Anyone could die for pride. Living with the loss was the part his species had never once been asked to do. Power down the weapons, he said. No one moved. All of them open a channel. His voice didn't shake. We are going home. One by one, the great guns went cold. This is Doran, fleet commander of the Vorath Dominion. We yield. Let my people leave, and we will not return. A pause on the line, long enough that he wondered if she'd let it end there. Then, quieter, almost tired. Take your ships and go, Commander, all of them. We won't fire on a fleet that's leaving. A beat. That was always the deal. We just needed you to believe it. The human squadron drew back its net and let the ruin of the Dominion fleet gather itself and limp out of the mist, unchased, unfinished. A dead enemy taught nothing. A living one carried the lesson home. The flight back was silent. Doran sat with his losses and wrote a report in words his language had never needed before and sent it to every commander he had. We met a species that does not break. We cornered them against every warning, and they did to us what we have done to others. We are not invincible. We never were. Far behind him, in the drifting color of the nebula, Ray sat alone with her ship groaning around her and opened her own log. She didn't call it a victory. She had buried too many of her own for that word to fit anymore. She wrote only what needed saying. That piece was still on the table, that the next fleet that came looking for one would find the same thing this one had. And then she closed the log, turned the wounded nose of the Resolute toward home, and let the burned-out running lights flicker across the black glass of the viewport, the only stars she had energy left to look at. 0, the dollars field, where the procedural category should appear, is blank.